the EFF.
Thanks, Chair. We agree fully with Honorable Sangoni. You know, we're at a level where pettiness must not even constitute what we're trying to do here. Mbalula, as a former minister, his crime can't be as a former minister. Therefore, he must come because he's a former minister. For what? Who said Mbalula did what? Who said Khalema did what? Who said President Mbeki did what? Who said former Minister Jeff Radebe did what? No one. You can't be at this level wanting to, be petty and reduce the whole thing into some petty squabbling. It's well and good if you remember the input on President Zuma about windows not opening, and that's the only thing you remember, windows. But there was an issue there of crime where an acting police commissioner is given an illegal instruction to commit crime. And he reports that to President Zuma. And President Zuma does nothing about it, instead of saying, what are they trying to do as an executive authority? Why would they give such an illegal instruction for you to do such a thing that is not in order with the laws of this country? Let me attend to this minister. Let me do. No, he says, no, sit here until I get someone to replace you. That is illegal. Now, to take us to be mechanics and want to check if the car was really not opening windows, that's petty, man. There's so many things that have been said there. Some are even extremely petty, but for us as leadership is to separate those petty issues with real issues that will help to restore the image of a criminal justice system in South Africa. It's not helping what we're trying to do. The same thing that you are keeping on wanting to insist on General Khan. You want to call a person because he has been praised for having engaged in a successful operation, which is his duty. You want to call a person because someone suspects that he might be part of a faction and he has not given you anything material to suggest that Khan has done this or that, and this is the story. No. There are so many people who have been mentioned. If that is the criteria we're using, we must go back to the record, and every name that gets to be called, we need to write it down, because that's your criteria. That's how you want to go about it. Then it means we must call that lady who was hired. They say is not qualified, and Mukwana says is qualified. He gives example about her because she's mentioned. She must be called. Then we must call that journalist that Mukwana said the journalists are captured, and then he gives example of a captured journalist because he's mentioned. He must be called. He gives an example of a magistrate who has done this or that, and because that magistrate has been mentioned, must be called. It doesn't work like that. You ought to apply your mind as to what is the significance of this reference that has been made to certain people's names. If that is not going to add any value or weight to this process, they are not worth repeating. They are not worth calling here. I'm interested in Honorable Glenis Bredenbach, because she was dealing, and she was very strong at the time, dealing with Mudluli's issue. And then there's a story that Mkhwanazi was called to drop the case against Mudluli, and on the other side, Mudluli's case also get to be dropped, and Honorable Bredenbach was at the center of it. Was she also being subjected to the same thing that Mkhwanazi was subjected to, that withdraw this thing, otherwise there's going to be a problem? So there is substance to that. But I don't understand why is Ian Cameron called, for instance, that he was chairing a committee, and then a presentation was made, and General Mkhwanazi makes that point that the issue was made at the end, and there was no opportunity really for the committee to engage, as it were, in that way. So why are we bringing Bredenbach? I mean, why are we bringing Ian Cameron if we are not being partisan? All of us know that our members, for instance, all of them were there. If Ian didn't do anything, what did Mateus do? What did so-and-so do as members of that committee, and all of that? So the matters were not properly canvassed at that committee, hence we're here now. And let's deal with these issues without wanting to be a partisan. I mean, why would you, under the sun, want to call former President Motlanthe to do what? It can't be, it cannot be correct that everybody else must just be dragged into this thing, and then we must all live painted with the same brush. These are leaders of society. These are people that, whether they belong to our parties or not, we ought to respect them. Where there's no issue, let's not drag them into issues where they are not involved. If anything, we must not perpetuate the factionalism that is happening at SAPS by wanting to reduce this matter into factional politics and partisan politics. We're here to help the country to rescue that institution. And I don't think Mbeki, Malema, Ratebe, Balula, Cameroon, Khan are going to help us with anything. You're going to live a day or two to come and ask Khan. They say you are a part of a faction. Are you part of a faction? He says, I don't know anything about any faction. And then what are you going to produce to prove that Khan is part of any faction? Except that he's being suspected and all of that. And then we are told when Kumalo comes, he will come with something concrete. Meaning, Mkwanas himself agrees that he's got nothing concrete on Khan. He says, no, someone else is going to come. Where we are seated now, with nothing on Khan, except that he went to do a good job. He got exonerated when he went to the DC, and then he continued with his job. So I'm really appealing, Chair. And for me, I'm not strong about any other thing I'm raising now, because the evidence leaders in their own consultation with the people who are mentioning, they will realize that some of these things, they themselves do not know which questions to pose to these people. And as a result, they're going to come back and say, on this round, we don't think, these are the people that we think we must interview. And then we're going to come back here and say, no, but we raised so-and-so. Why is this so-and-so not there? They will not have found anything, because seated here, we have nothing. So let's not be party line when it comes to these issues. Let's be objective, and let's try and help the institution. There was a strong feeling about Honorable Kola Barnard, a strong feeling about Honorable Adams. They are worth being called because they were being used as examples of politicians that are entangled in this mess. And we may need to want to hear their side, especially as serving members of parliament, correctly so. So we save the face of the institution of parliament. We may want to hear to what extent are they familiar with these issues, and what protocols did they follow to come to a conclusion on certain issues that could have been handled differently as suggested by General Mkwanas. But Chair, otherwise, I'm comfortable with the rest of the list. Thank you.